Okay, I think we are good to start. So, welcome to our today's webinar, to our webcast, Delivering Excellence in Assembly and Packaging. In this webcast, we want to give you some insights from Feta about the topic and show you our solutions. So that's all from my side. I will hand over to our speakers who will introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caroline Frank, and I am part of the product and service management team at Feta. My focus within our team is to evaluate market trends for primary packaging materials and devices with the goal to optimize our service offerings in the future. I studied medical engineering at the universities Tübingen and Stuttgart, and now I am 3 years at Feta.
My name is Tawanda Mzorewa, and I've been with Feta for over 18 years now. And I've gone through different departments, some of which were customer project management, quotation and portfolio management. So right now I'm working in business development, where I'm working in late stage business development, where we're looking for new customers and also looking for new services that we would actually offer for our customers. I'm also focused on assembly and secondary packaging in our team. So I'm from education background. I'm a chemical engineer, and I've got an MBA. So thank you so much for dialing in. We'll just start our presentation then, and let's begin then. So today's agenda, we will first of all look into an introduction as to what is secondary packaging at Feta. And then second, we'll look at key considerations, packaging and assembly strategies. On third position, we'll look at the Feta portfolio, what our packaging and assembly services offer. And also on the fourth place, we are going then to look in how you could work with Feta and how we offer quality, flexibility, and experience. So secondary packaging at Feta. But before we move on to that, I would like to give you a brief overview of who Feta is. So Feta is a independent family-owned CDMO, where we are offering world-class manufacturing services for biopharma industry, running through early clinical phase, through commercial filling, and also assembly and packaging. So just to give you a few numbers here, we have filled, for example, last year, 238 million units, and we have had a revenue of about $1.3 billion, and we are now over 7,300 employees worldwide. So we are based in the southern part of Germany, in Ravensburg. So that's where the headquarters is. So we offer comprehensive support for our clients, especially in sterile fill finish product, beginning from clinical development, where we select together with our clients packaging and process designs. On the other end, we also look into the method transfers and lab qualification that are required to support the activities. And we do all the filling from clinical filling and scale up, and moving on from there with process qualification, especially in phase 3. We do then the process qualification and move on to commercial fill finish. We also perform visual inspection and then also be ready then for market supply. On the other hand, I think today our focus is mainly also on assembly and packaging. So here we deliver drug product delivery devices to our clients, and also look at final packaging as well as storage and logistics. These are all the offers that we offer in that segment. Well, to that, we also offer, alongside all these activities, analytical services as well as regulatory support and logistics services. So what do we mean by secondary packaging at FITA? So secondary packaging on our end is anything that happens after primary packaging filling. So after we have done the vials or syringes or cartridges or dual chamber syringe systems, anything that has to do with simple labeling, for example, or just plunger rod assembly with finger rest, or anything that is complicated as much as auto injector, pen, lyoject assembly, and moving on also to final packaging in folding boxes or paper trays or plastic blistering, and anything that also has to do with final serialization and aggregation and shipment of the goods out of FITA's premises. Why is secondary packaging so important? So, of top reasons why FDA drug recalls, you can see that labeling and packaging takes about almost 20%. So it is so much important to make sure that your labeling and packaging is well done and you ensure that the patient is getting the right product. So in this case, your product has already reached the most valuable status, and therefore it is important that you have all this done properly before you can actually to avoid any recalls from the market. So assembly and packaging unlocks product full potential. So if you look at this picture here, it just shows that you could have the API, but you cannot directly apply it to a patient. So with that, you would need to do the aseptic filling. And after that, maybe you're probably just having a syringe, which you cannot actually also apply without any other secondary packaging activities on top of it. So it's only after assembly and packaging where the product becomes marketable and a deliverable product for the patients. And with that, it makes it secondary packaging is also a means of making the transportation of the drug product safe and also a means of identity for the drug product on the market. I'll hand over to Caroline for this section.
Okay, let's now look at how to define the right packaging and assembly strategy for your next product. Success requires a holistic strategy combining timing, patient and product profile, and technical considerations. In terms of timing, the key message is simple. Start early with your device and packaging strategy. Your choice of primary container directly impacts your device options. When you're going to market in a self-injection device, developing and executing a comprehensive launch plan takes time. You should ideally start developing that strategy parallel with in-human testing. We recommend to start in phase 2 and ready to execute when your combination product is ready for the regulators. Late decisions often lead to redesigns and therefore delays and increased costs. Early alignment helps mitigate this risk. So the next step after the timing is defined, is to understand key requirements regarding the patient and product profile. On the next slide, we prepared an example for planning to launch in an auto-injector. So you can see here that there are many aspects listed that influence the device and packaging selection process and help you to define a differentiation strategy and an optimal launch and marketing strategy. On the right side, you can see the patient side. On the patient side, to consider, for example, health system requirements that can differ between different countries, disease attributes, demographics, the injection site, and the inpatient. Each patient and group of users needs something different from a self-injection device. So to show you an example, a child may be administered by a healthy adult with a few physical limitations, and if you compare it to an old high-risk patient with poor manual dexterity, it should be easy for the old patient to be able to remove the cap. So such consideration you should take care of. On the left side, the product profile side, you see also a lot of aspects that can have an influence. Drug characteristics and fluidic properties, for example, the viscosity can influence break, loose, and glide forces, but also high viscous drugs may require other needle or, for example, electromechanical devices. So all that should be considered. Then we have regulatory considerations that can differ when it's a new product filing or when it's a lifecycle product with an already marketed product. And we have budget and timeline that also play a role. For example, if you have to decide if you use a platform device or a complete new device development is possible or needed. So then we also have, in addition, the technical and manufacturing related aspects that play a role. And here are auto-injectors a good example of complexity. Can show that on the next slide. So here you can see a lot of parameters again. Regarding the assembly process, parameters such as fill volume and stopper position, type of platform customization, and the window size all impact the assembly process. If the stopper position doesn't leave enough space, the syringe cannot assemble into the auto-injector. Every device has its own specification for that, so that should be also considered. And if the device differs due to customization, for example, or due to the window size, may require new format parts for the assembly line, where you also need to consider the lead times for the format parts. Regarding the compatibility of primary packaging material and the device, list here two important aspects. One of them is the type of finger flange. It needs to be suitable for the auto-injector. A small round flange is more robust than a cut flange, and a cut flange must be oriented inside of the auto-injector. Therefore, we, for example, recommend to use a small round flange if it's possible. And then we have the rigid needle shield. It should also be compatible to the auto-injector cap, with the goal that all users or all patients can easily open it. That's the cap removal force that needs to be considered there. So that's why early alignment with the different stakeholders, device suppliers, CDMO, is essential. And it's essential because we want to avoid redesigns and delays. Okay, so that was for the technical considerations. And now let's to our portfolio. So to complement your filled product, Vetter offers final assembly and packaging solution. We support a wide range of self-injection devices that are pens for multiple injections where a prefilled cartridge is used. We have safety devices to prevent needle stick injuries and auto-injectors for single-use injection where the needle is hidden from the patient and the injection is fully automated. To complement that, we also offer component assembly of plunger rods, finger flanges, and backstop. But today we want to focus on the injection devices. So many of these platforms are already implemented on our assembly lines, while others can be implemented via a customer project. On this slide, you can see that we can assemble the Ypsomed Uno pen and the BD Ultra Safe Plus. The Nemera Safe and Sound can be implemented via a customer project. And you also can see we have different formats, like the 1.5 ml and 3 ml for the Uno pen, or 1 ml and 2.25 ml for the safety devices. So, and now we see here the slide for the auto-injector portfolio. Our focus lies on platform devices from the leading suppliers for the two standard sizes, 1 ml and 0.25 ml. And we also did an evaluation for two solutions for high dose, large volume needs. We can implement these two devices from Ypsomed for high viscosity and large volume up to 5.5 ml within the customer project. So then we go on. Device testing is also a necessary component for the release of the injection products to ensure functionality, safety, and reliability. We test according to ISO standards. And for an auto-injector, we can evaluate standard test parameters such as you can see in the table, the injection volume, cap removal force, activation force, override force, click detection, plunger rod detection, and injection time, and as well the needle extension. So therefore, for these tests, we have several Zwick testing machines installed at our site. And again, to mention here, the testing strategy should be defined early as it impacts both development and timelines. To implement a product-specific testing, the testing strategy needs to be defined by the customer. And if a new device is used or new format parts, format parts for the testing machines as well. So method validation samples should be available for validation. All that things that are listed here are required as well. So Fetter can also supply the final packaging, which represents the first point of contact to the patient. Here, the clear trend is towards reducing material complexity and improving sustainability, because it's the easiest thing that company can first. We offer here paper-based monomaterial packaging. At Fetter, we call it all-paper packaging. The all-paper packaging shows your commitment to the environment because it's the sustainable option. All components are paper. And then we offer blister packaging that can help further protect the integrity of your product. And this is often required for ophthalmic product. Finally, on the next slide, we complement our packaging services with serialization and aggregation. That is a regulatory requirement worldwide to prevent falsification. We ensure here unique identification of each unit and a transparent parent-child relationship across the different packaging levels. You can see it from folding box serialization to shipping case aggregation and pallet aggregation. And this guarantees compliance across all global markets. So, and with that, I will hand back to Tawanda.
I'll continue then with looking at what it means working with Fetter. So, what quality and flexibility and experience will offer. So, from a facility overview, our Fetter secondary packaging, we have a space of about 8,900 square meters of manufacturing space and 9 automated production lines, 5 production rooms for manual assembly. We have got 7 standalone labeling and assembly machines, and we are performing these activities in hygienic area E. So it's a controlled area where there is actually gowning needed to enter this area. There is modern testing and analytics methods available, and we are manufacturing everything according to CGMP regulations for US, Europe, and Japan. So in the last year, we have manufactured 77.2 million units which resulted in about 2,300 orders. So from an infrastructure design, how do we have that implemented to deliver the quality? So this is an example with syringe assembly and packaging. So for all processes, we have one-way linear material flows. We have separate production lines to ensure no mix-up of products. We have dedicated access controls so that no unauthorized people enter the production room. On the other hand, we have on-site cold and room temperature storage. This is to ensure the shortest time out of refrigeration for your product. And we have state-of-the-art climate controls and ventilation technology implemented there. We have control systems for each process steps. So that means we are taking notation of all the different steps as the product goes through. We are monitoring also the temperature for temperature-sensitive drug substances or drug products. Put our customers from a very, very early stage up to commercial manufacturing. So we offer, for example, in early stage non-GMP samples using tabletop assembly machines. These samples are actually quite critical at that time because sometimes customers are wanting these samples to actually have initial feasibility with the later drug product device. So this means at this early stage, we can actually offer you some samples. And later on, as we move on in the development stages, we offer for clinical batches, small scale, also clinical batches using tabletop, and also at a little bit larger scale, semi-automated machines. For commercial production, we have semi and fully automated production lines available. So this is an example of how a project, for example, would run within Feta. So right at the beginning, as soon as the customer chooses their material or their primary packaging material, we actually then start working with them on a secondary packaging project on which we create the packaging material, technical drawings and specifications. We also work in close contact with our suppliers to create artwork and also check any other specific requirements with the customer. We perform test runs of the initial materials, also with planning and implementation and reporting in place. We will define the process development specifications together with the customer. With that information, we create then the master batch records and also sampling plans for the specific product. So while moving into the development stages, when we are now going into process validation or GMP manufacturing, we also perform a risk assessment of the assembly and packaging process steps. And if we at any time find anything that is not matching and that needs to be changed, then we can go back to the start or wherever, whichever part of the stage will be necessary. So moving on into commercial production, we create process qualification documentation and then perform the process qualification runs and also then validating the whole process as it is. After that, we hand over the commercial production. We hand over the activities to commercial production, where then day-to-day supplies can take place. This takes about 10 to 34 months. This is all depending upon complexity and also if format parts are existing or not. So this is, I would say, 10 to 34 months is the timeline for implementation of a secondary packaging product. So from a life cycle point of view, we are always supporting our customers in each and every stage. So here, as the market shifts, we help continually in whichever stage the product is, so that you can actually move here. For example, from a vial, you could be doing final packaging with the vial, or if you want to go into a single chamber cartridge or double chamber systems or a syringe, and then also with the complexity of the auto injectors or pens, and with the final packaging that is required. So depending also on this time, whether it's with the up and downscaling, also of commercial volumes. So that means is you are launching additional countries, will also be helping the customers to enter those countries. We also help in adapting the primary and secondary packaging processes. So in this case, if the customer is changing anything on the process, and then we also help in implementing that and making sure that the product then goes also commercial. So we have a proven track record in device assembly and packaging. So this is just to showcase a few numbers in terms of experience. We have 25 plus years of experience, 20 plus products with the device assembly. We have manufactured, as mentioned already, in the last year, about 77 million units, from which about 40 million were auto injectors. We have in the past year had 21 successful inspections and audits. This is also then from customers and the government agencies. And we are very flexible also when it comes to manufacturing really from small to large scale batches, and using small scale machines, but also large scale machines. So with that, we have come to the end of this session. And I hope that we have given you sort of the information that you were expecting to hear. I think we are now open for questions.